citizens of the Nigelverse. It is Nigel here once again, and this is going to be another movie review. So, Spider-Man Across the Spiderverse is out now in theaters. There's bored not reviewing that, at least not yet. I definitely do want to check out the movie, and so far from what everybody's saying, it's been awesome. But I want to check out the original first, just to get myself warmed back up for this movie. So watching this movie again, and not just for review, but because like I said, I had wanted to get myself warmed up, and I'm definitely glad I did. And that is Spider-Man and Into the Spiderverse, which is kind of sort of my channel's namesake, admittedly. Like the Nigelverse, of course, kind of a parody of the Spiderverse, obviously. But the only difference is there aren't at least 5 other Nigels running around. At least not Nigel Dixie, that is. But unless there is, in which case that'd be kind of weird. But nonetheless, so yeah, we're gonna be reviewing Spider-Man Into the Spiderverse. Loved it the first time around. Loved it even more the second time around. Let's talk about it. So, as always, I'm not professional movie reviewer or analyst, but don't need to be one to let you know that this movie is fantastic. This movie is awesome, like in just about every way, shape, or form. Man, definitely a breath of fresh air after having reviewed so many bad movies for Awful Month. This was my treat. This was my reward for getting through Awful Month, was this movie right here. So without further ado, let's get right into it. Although honestly, my review will not be able. There's no amount of good words I can say about this movie that will be able to do it justice. It is a movie you definitely have to check out for yourself. I definitely recommend it. Starting with what I liked, pretty much everything. Like the visuals are fantastic. The music is really solid. All the characters are really awesome. Just everything about this movie is just phenomenal. Of course, the main character is Mr. Miles Morales, which 2018 I think definitely was a really solid year for him. Between this movie and his kind of minor role, setting up for a major role, in Spider-Man PS4, 2018 was a really solid year for Miles Morales, and honestly, Miles Morales, I like how he's being brought more and more to the forefront in terms of Marvel and everything. The next major Spider-Man that they're building around, which is fantastic to see. You love Miles Morales and everything, and seeing him here, or as he's getting his power, or as in learning how to use them, kind of a coming of age story, which I love with the narrative of the story. There's a lot of different narrative elements throughout. There's things such as loss. Of course, Miles, similar to like the other Spider people, loses his Uncle Aaron, who is the Prowler. It's a nice dynamic there with Miles freaking out that his Uncle Aaron is the Prowler. And then we have, of course, there's his parents. We have Rio Morales and Officer Jefferson Davis, which I imagine they probably changed Miles' last name to Morales and not like Davis. Is probably to avoid the copyright with the singer Miles Davis, which I think that's kind of what they were going for, which I think was a smart way to go around it. But yeah, so we see how Miles interacts with them and kind of that blend of styles. Of course, Jefferson Davis is of course African American. Rio is Puerto Rican, if I'm not mistaken. But I am going to look it up. But yeah, so seeing kind of the blend and of cultures there, with Miles being like multicultural and everything, is pretty cool to see. He didn't dive into it as much, but it was more about the coming of age and everything, how Miles became Spider-Man, and right as the other Spider people who are going into so Rio is Puerto Rican, but seeing how the other Spider people come to his universe, and how they're kind of mentoring Miles as he's learning to get his powers and everything, and kind of learning more, or somewhat about themselves, while they're also helping Miles, and Miles really coming into his own kind of learning, almost trial by fire in a way, him learning his powers and everything. I'm sorry, I'm all over the place, but it's just, this movie is so fantastic. And the Spider people they chose were pretty cool. You have Peter Parker, aka the main Spider-Man, which an alternate version of Miles' universe is Peter Parker, who has died. In fact, Miles watched him get killed by the Kingpin, and Kingpin, of course, using a dimension and machine to get an alternate version of his family. Because he lost his family, he kind of by his own dirty deed, they caught him doing felonious stuff, and so his family pieces out. So the machine, he's gonna bring them back. So using that for selfish desires. So that's a nice character or establishment for Kingpin. Then there's Peter Parker, who compared to Miles' version of Spider-Man, that Spider-Man is like almost perfect, like he's fantastic, doing all this good stuff. This Peter is like very destitute, very like a kind of a loser almost. Broke up with Mary Jane, like they divorced and everything. And which man, between that and Spider-Man PS4, they really did not want Peter and MJ together, I guess. But well, in PS4 they kind of get back together, but well, not kind of, they do get back together, but spoilers, sorry. But yeah, so seeing that Peter and how he's kind of like down on his luck, down in the dumps and everything, mentally, how he's able to pick himself up through Miles. Then you have Spider-Man Noir, which Nicolas Cage did a fantastic job as, and I'm so sad he's not coming back for Across the Spider-Verse. Hopefully, because I know there is supposed to be a third like Spider-Verse movie, if I'm not mistaken. This and the Across the Spider-Verse are supposed to be kind of like a two-parter deal. Hopefully he comes back for that, because that would be pretty nice to see. But we have Spider-Man Noir, very dark, very gritty. He you can tell, been through a lot. And then there's Penny Parker with the spider robot. I've been by the spider, but her and the spider have a bond, and the spider inhabits the robot and controls the robot and everything. And we also see Penny control the robot. Then there's Spider-Gwen, who's technically the first other spider person that Miles meets, but doesn't quite know it yet. Of course, Gwen Stacy in a universe where she didn't die, but instead is alive. And it's actually Peter who died. And then there's Spider-Ham, aka Peter Porker, who is literally a cartoon character, like a Looney Tunes character, like absolutely ridiculous, absolutely silly, but you gotta throw some comedy in there. Although he does have a pretty sad line, and when Miles loses his Uncle Aaron, where he says, "You can't save everyone," which a lot of people pointed out, wow, the saddest, hardest hitting line came from the Looney Tunes Spider-Man. But it just goes to show it, like all the character depth that they do for these characters is phenomenal, and we see how they interact. The Spider people don't feel like exactly the same. They all feel like they have their own separate identities, and almost in a way kind of their own separate art styles. Spider-Gwen and Spider-Man, Peter Parker, are kind of similar to Miles, but Penny Parker is more almost in like an anime sort of style. Spider-Man Noir, of course, in black and white, and Spider-Ham is way more of a Looney Tunes. Which, speaking of which, the visuals, the visuals are stunning for this movie. It feels like a comic book, like in a lot of ways, which is kind of funny that they have a comic book within a comic book. But a lot of stuff feels cartoony, and you can definitely tell they had fun with the movements and everything, and just making the movements somewhat over the top. But it's supposed to be a comic book. It's supposed to be somewhat cartoony, but also try to be based somewhat in realism. And I think the art style works really well for the movie. Plus, if I remember correctly, this took them like a while to make this art style, like years, to get this down packed and everything. So even more props to them, because it took a lot of time and dedication to be able to get the art style the way they wanted it, which even more props to them. I mean, this movie looks beautiful, and the music is beautiful as well. I am gushing about this movie so much. Like, I cannot gush enough about this movie. Like I said, those words I'm telling you and everything won't be able to do this movie justice, because it is truly phenomenal. Definitely check it out if you haven't already, and if you watched it already, check it out again. And even if you're going to see Across the Spiderverse, great, but then go home and check out this movie again. I actually watched it on Hulu, one or two ads, but it wasn't that major. But yeah, so really awesome movie in a lot of regards. Kind of like that coming of age story, even though it's with superpowers and everything. I feel like not just the children, which is kind of the target audience, but just people in general can relate to who facing up to pressure. Miles, of course, facing a lot of pressure, not just from his family, who want to see him do fantastic, which his father admits is because he sees a lot of potential in Miles. But also the added pressure of now being Spider-Man, and kind of going to that Spider-Man trope of life is not normal, and there's all these responsibilities and everything you have to juggle, which honestly is the case for just about any superhero. Is having to juggle kind of like that life, having to save everyone and everything, but also trying to have like a normal social life, especially ones with secret identity, is where people can't find out, or else your loved ones will be in danger. So all of these things that have to be juggled, and the movie does a fantastic job showing how Miles tries to cope with it, and tries to overcome it and everything, and it's done so fantastic. And then the ending scene, in the post-credit scene with Spider-Man 2099, which as just like a design for a character, Spider-Man 2099 probably one of my favorite Spider-Man, just from a design standpoint. I first saw him in the Spider-Man Edge of Time video game, and I just fell in love with the design. Like, it is so cool. And the post-credit scene is more of like a funny meme, the Spider-Man pointing at each other meme, which I still can't believe that Tom Holland, Tobey Maguire, and Andrew Garfield actually did with one another when they did Spider-Man No Way Home, but kind of the meme going back in time and kind of doing the whole pointing thing with 1960s Spider-Man. But it's even more awesome how they're giving you kind of a taste of like 2099 and kind of like this meme and everything. But then obviously he's gonna play a bigger part in the next Across the Spider-Verse movie. So I cannot wait to see that movie. If I had to find something to nitpick with this movie, because there's always something, it's probably the art style sometimes can betray the movie a little bit in like the character designs. Like some character designs might not come across as well as they could have, and more specifically with like Kingpin. Like a lot of the other ones look fine for the most part, or even some of the change-ups that they made with like some of the more drastic ones they made with like Scorpion or like Doc Ock, which in this case is Olivia Octavius. Imagine a alternate version of Otto Octavius. So some of those change-ups, I think, and of course what they did with Green Goblin, in which they kind of tried to combine kind of the aspects of his ultimate design, where he's very big and buff and stuff, but also trying to go more like the traditional Goblin route, where he looks like a giant monster. I think that's all pretty cool. And it does take some liberties with that, but sometimes liberties have to be taken, and I think those are pulled off relatively well. But Kingpin, he looks kind of weird in this movie. He literally almost looks like a giant circle, which I see what they're going for, because Kingpin is very, very massive, very, very big indeed, and we see that oftentimes throughout the movie, and the way he walks and how he uses his strength and everything, especially how he freaking kills Spider-Man, which I imagine took some iron gauchos to kill Spider-Man, like Peter Parker, within like the first few moments of the movie. But Kingpin kind of does look weird. He looks like a giant circle throughout the movie. He like I said, know what they're going for, but it does look kind of weird. But that is just a small nitpick in the grand scheme of things. The the other thing is, some of the other villains I wish got a little bit more or time to shine, a little bit more to do, like Kingpin and Olivia Octavius and the Prowler are really are like the major villains to pay attention to in the movie. The other villains, such as like Green Goblin and Scorpion and Tombstone, are a bit more like in the background, which is unfortunate. Tombstone, which I am hoping someday he becomes a main villain in the Spider-Man and pretty much anything. But Tombstone, I think, literally only got like one line in the entire movie, which is a bit unfortunate. But those are just small nitpicks in the grand scheme of things. Check this movie out ASAP. If you haven't already, check this movie out. If you have already, watch it again, because it is just phenomenal, and I cannot wait for Across the Spider-Verse. And obviously, when I go watch Across the Spider-Verse, when I'm watching it, I'm not sure. Probably, maybe sometime next week. I'm not sure, but when I review it, I am going to, of course, compare and contrast it to Into the Spider-Verse, and we're going to kind of see how it measures up. And I imagine it is going to measure up fairly well. A lot of people are saying that this movie, Across the Spider-Verse, is just as good as the original. And I think only like 1% lower than the original movie, which is really awesome to see. But I am excited to see how things play out in Across the Spider-Verse. Of course, saw little snippets and everything with like the trailers and stuff, which some of them I try to avoid. I kind of try to avoid movie trailers for the most part, only because I want to like go into it like completely blind, not knowing anything. But unfortunately, some of them were kind of thrust upon me. Mostly when I went to go watch other movies, like when I went to go see like Morbius or Super Mario Brothers movie. Or actually, was there a trailer for it? I'm not sure if there was one for a Super Mario Bros. Movie, but nevertheless, I saw some stuff. But yeah, I'm excited to see that movie, and I'm happy I rewatched this movie, because man, what a fantastic movie! This is pretty much like looking at how long I've been recording. It's pretty much like 17 minutes of me just saying Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse. Honestly, I'm gonna make a bold statement right here, right now. This might be arguably the best Marvel movie ever, or that is how far I'm willing to go. Like, if someone said this was their favorite Marvel movie ever, I would not question it. I completely understand. And for me, if this isn't my favorite Marvel movie ever, it's definitely at least in like the top 3, or maybe even the top 5. I'm definitely up there in terms of fantastic Marvel movies. Like, this was really good, and we need some more like animated movies. But maybe I'll talk about that more some other time. Kind of the whole live action Marvel movies versus the animated ones. But nevertheless, that's gonna do it for this video. Thank you all so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed. If you did, please do me a favor: like, comment, subscribe, share with your friends, turn on post notifications so you know every time I upload a video, so you can see as soon as it drops. Let me know in the comments below your thoughts on the movie, your thoughts on my review of the movie. Did you like the movie? I imagine you did. And did you dislike my review? But thank you all so much for watching, and I will see you guys later. Peace.